Resource, and I'm jumping on spontaneously because I'm starting something new, something different that I have never done before, that I've never tried. I don't know if anyone will pay any attention whatsoever. However, I am already getting a lot out of this, so I thought I would at least do it on here in case anybody else gets something out of this too. So here's what the plan is if you've been around any amount of time in this journey of Laundromat Resource, you might love reading books, business books, personal development books. I'm always trying to look for ways to level up my game, whether that's myself personally or my business, or probably both, really. And so I've read a lot of books over the years. And one thing that I wanted to do is kind of go back through a lot of these books and actually look for lessons that I could take away and apply them specifically to my laundromat businesses and your laundromat businesses. So I'm just going to be randomly, whenever I have time and feel like it, not scheduled at least for now, I'm going to pick a book that I've read and pull out some of the core concepts of it, and I am going to contextualize them for laundromat businesses. And if you're around and want to, what's up, Eric? Hey, somebody's here. All right. If you're around and want to chime in on this, listen, I think this is going to be great, at least for me, and hopefully for you too. So we're going to start with the book, Buy Back Your Time. Buy Back Your Time is a book by Dan Martell, and for me personally, it was a revolutionary way of looking at time and my time and how I spend it. So I want to pull out some of the core concepts of Buy Back Your Time. I'm going to contextualize it for laundromat owners specifically. And if you've got thoughts, ideas, any of that, chime in the chat. I got that open over there too. But in the meantime, let's jump into it. So again, we're talking about Buy Back Your Time. And we're going to make a laundromat owner's blueprint based on this book. So principle number one I wanted to pull out of Buy Back Your Time is called the Buyback Loop. Okay, it's audit, transfer, fill. That's Dan Martell's idea of the Buyback Loop. And the core of Buy Back Your Time is this Buyback Loop. And it's a system to continually remove low value tasks from your plate and replace them with high leverage activities. Now, here's the thing. In this business specifically, this is, I would call it a pandemic, an epidemic in our business. Laundromat owners are notorious for spending our times on low value tasks. So this book really for me, and I was guilty of this early on too, and I'm still continually trying to level up my high leverage activities and how I spend my time. So Eric, dude, highly recommend this book for you. And maybe this little rundown will give you sort of an overview and see if you actually like it, but I think you probably will. Okay, so this Buyback Loop is a system to take low value tasks that we spend our time on and trade them up, replace them with high leverage activities. And here's why it matters, I think, for us as laundromat owners, is that many of us get stuck doing everything like repairing machines, managing our staff, cleaning, counting quarters, et cetera, picking up dryer sheets, dealing with, getting the wrong people out of our store and getting the right people in our store. And this keeps us from focusing on growing our businesses. Okay. And this is what this is all about. This Buyback Loop is to help us get rid of some of these tasks that are necessary, but are not helping us build our business and grow our business. Okay. So let's talk about how do we actually apply this principle of the Buyback Loop in our businesses specifically. So the first thing is audit. So again, it's audit, transfer, fill. So audit is the first thing. And all you do in this phase is you write down every task you do for a week. Now, I actually have, and shoot me an email, jordan@laundromatresource.com if you need a time audit sheet. You can probably download one too, but I created one. We use it in our Laundromat Playbook program, but a time audit where you go through and you actually record what you spend every minute of your day on. That is a very eye-opening activity if you've never done it. Highly recommend doing it, but you can do it specifically within the context of your business if you want. Write down every task that you do for a week. All right, so audit, transfer is the second step. That means in our context, you're going to delegate or automate anything below your buyback rate. Okay. And your buyback rate is something that you initially, at least, kind of arbitrarily assign to yourself. And for some people that might mean, hey, I make $25 an hour at my job. And yeah, that's right. I love that. Automate everything already, even you reading this book for me. Dude, you are ahead of the curve already. I love it. So your buyback rate, you want to set, it can be sort of arbitrary in the early phases. You know, you could start it low at 25 bucks or whatever you make at your day job, or whatever you make on your side hustle, or whatever you want to put it. And then the goal is to delegate or automate everything that you can outsource for underneath that rate. So if it's 30 bucks an hour, anything you can automate for under 30 bucks an hour or delegate, you should do it, right? And the goal then is to take that buyback rate that you've set for yourself and to continually raise it up higher and higher and higher. Okay. And you do less and less tasks that are below these higher and higher numbers. Okay. So you audit, how do I spend my time? Then you transfer anything below that buyback rate. You're going to, automate or delegate. And then number 3 is fill. You're going to use that freed up time to focus on things like these higher leverage activities, like acquiring more locations, marketing, improving the customer experience, strategic partnerships, stuff like that. And I will say even marketing, like that's one where you want to get to a point where you're actually automating that to the pros as well, but you may not be there yet. It depends on, right, and how much it costs to market. Okay, so this buyback loop where you take a look at how I spend my time, you get rid of the tasks that you're doing that somebody can do below your buyback rate, and then you fill that new time in with higher leverage activities. Okay? Principle number 2 I wanted to talk about is called the replacement ladder, okay? And here's the idea Dan Martell has behind the replacement ladder, is that there's a clear order to reclaiming your time. Start with the lowest value tasks and move upward. It's similar to what we just talked about, right? And here's why it matters for us as laundromat owners. If you're spending time scrubbing machines, running errands, unjamming quarters, I mean, there's a litany of low value tasks that we do on a daily basis, many of us. But if you're spending time on those kinds of tasks, instead of spending your time increasing revenue, I'd even put keeping the books, stuff like that. I think that's where digital payment systems come in. If you're spending a lot of time collecting coins and counting those and weighing them or whatever, digital payment systems can help with this, right? But if you're spending your time on these low value tasks, instead of increasing your revenue, you're limiting your potential, right? So here's how to apply it. Number 1, hire out your cleaning. If you haven't done that, hire that cleaning out, your maintenance and your basic operations. You can train people to help do a lot of these low value tasks. I know that for some of you who are running like low margin, or low volume laundromats, this can be a little scary because a lot of times it's going to require you to give a significant chunk of your income away. But here's the thing is that we got to stop thinking of it as like an expense and start thinking of it as an investment, right? The idea is not necessarily to just give away tasks to free up time, although there's nothing wrong with that. We'll talk about that too. But the idea in this context is to give away those low value tasks so that you can focus on growing the business. So your return should be higher than your investment in things like hiring out cleaning, maintenance, basic operations. Dan Sullivan's Who Not How, similar to that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that who, right, is, and we'll do Who Not How because that was a life-changing one for me too. So we'll make sure that one gets on the list too. But yeah, absolutely. Okay. So first we're hiring that stuff out. Second, we want to outsource admin work like bookkeeping or even social media stuff. Unless it's your thing, these kinds of tasks are again essential. And I think even social media I'd put as more and more valuable as you go along, and that might be able to be put in like a growing your business category, at least initially, but it is something that you can outsource for a relatively low rate. So outsourcing those types of things in that second level, that second tier, will help you again to be able to focus on some of these higher leverage activities. So First, cleaning, maintenance, basic operations, then bookkeeping, social media. Then we want to work towards hiring out a manager and operations lead to oversee the staff and the daily operations, right? The goal, I talk about this a lot, but I did a survey one time and I said, hey, how many laundromats do you want to own? I sent it out to everybody who was on my list. And by far, most people responded they want to own 10 or more laundromats. Well, guess what? You can't own 10 or more laundromats if you're the one managing the operations, leading the staff, doing the daily operations, overseeing the daily operations even. You've got to build in systems and put in the right people, that who, not how, in place in order to be able to scale to higher leverage activities, like looking for the next deal, like optimizing your current operations, like building out a pickup and delivery or drop-off service, like going out and getting commercial clients, those types of things you want to be spending your time on, okay? And then finally, you want to bring in experts for higher level growth. That would be like marketing experts, SEO experts, consultants to help you optimize your business, that kind of thing. So again, we are taking a look at that buyback rate, and we're going to work our way up the ladder here of ways to kind of optimize our business in this replacement ladder, how we're replacing our activities, right? So we don't want to necessarily jump to some of these higher tiers. We want to start at the basics and work our way up that ladder, okay? Principle number 3 is called the 1-10-100 rule. Hey, what's up, Joe? How's it going, man? The 1-10-100 rule. Okay. And here's the idea Dan Martell has about this rule. It costs $1 to do a task right the first time, $10 to fix it later, and $100 to repair it after it damages your business. That was like mind blowing for me. I'll say it again. $1 to do the task right the first time, $10 to fix it later, and $100 to repair it after it damages your business. Okay. Now, again, here's why it matters for us laundromat owners. If you're not documenting your processes, training your team properly, you're going to pay the price later. Lost customers, broken machines, poor revenues, bad reviews, all of these things are consequences that not only are going to hurt your revenue now, but it's going to cost more to fix it later. And if you let it go until it actually damages your business, it costs significantly more to fix it at that point in time, right? So the lesson basically is, hey, let's try to get it right as early on in the process as possible. And part of that is document those processes, train your team properly. And not only that, keeping your team accountable, right? Whether that's you early on or as you go up the replacement ladder, right? Your management that's overseeing your staff, you want to make sure they're very clear on how they should be behaving and what tasks they should be doing, how they should respond to customers, and then keeping them accountable to actually doing those things. Joe says, my wife says the cheapskate pays twice. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I think that that's true in our personal lives. But, and Dan Martell's principle here is like, hey, that's true in our business too. But if you let it go even farther and it actually damages your business, cheapskate pays 100 times is basically what he's saying. So craziness. But I think it emphasizes the importance of getting this done right. And in fact, like we have our laundromat playbook where we help people, kind of get in the business and optimize their businesses and scale up. We always recommend, hey, if your plan is to grow a portfolio, but you also want to grow a pickup and delivery or drop-off service, we always recommend you start with the service part of the business. First, let's get the self-serve and the service part of the business optimized at your 1 or 2 locations that you have, and then start to scale, because we found that, and this is obvious, but we found that not only can you replicate the model between locations, but as you do that, the problems you have also duplicate or replicate, right? And so we want to make sure that we're not doing things that are going to damage the business and then spreading them throughout our portfolio. Okay. So here's how to apply this principle, the 1-10-100 rule. Number 1, document your critical tasks. Opening, closing, machine troubleshooting, customer complaints. How do you want your staff, responding to these types of things. Maybe there's things that they can handle themselves. Maybe there's a chain of command that they can send problems through to. Maybe they have a certain amount of money they can refund before they have to talk to somebody, those kinds of things. But you want to document that stuff. You want to have some sort of manual, whether that's in written form or video form or something where they can reference easily and train new staff on. Okay, and that's number 2, right? Is creating training videos and written guides and those kinds of things, right? So document those tasks and create videos or written guides, things like that can help your staff navigate issues when they come up. And then you want to standardize procedures before the problems arise, right? Standardize those procedures. Make sure we're responding the same way every time. Now, obviously, sometimes there's nuances that come up, but you want to try to stick to, the same response every time. Okay. This one was awesome for me. Groundbreaking stuff here. And, Dan Martell in this book, this was like just a earth-shattering concept for me. And this is principle number 4 that we're going to go over. I think we got 5 total, 5 or 6, something like that. 7, I don't know. We'll go for a little bit here. But the 4th one is called the time energy audit. Here's the idea behind it. Not all tasks just take time. They also affect your energy. So you should avoid time energy mismatches. This was a novel concept for me when I first, read this book and thought through this principle here, this time energy mismatches. So here's why it matters for us laundromat owners. Tasks like fixing machines, some people love doing that. And some people, it is a huge drain on them. Same with just running operations or managing people. I have a buddy who he's got 5 laundromats, but he's keeping them all unattended, self-serve, because he just realized that he does not like managing people. It's a time and energy drain on him, and he doesn't like it. And he's found a model that works without having to have too many people on staff there. So he keeps his laundromats unattended, right? So these tasks like fixing the machines or, fill in the blank on what drains you about the business, they might drain you even if they only take 30 minutes. And over time, that is what leads to burnout, right? That's what leads to burnout, is when we have these tasks that we want to do. For example, I'll give you just an example for me. Doing the books for me, for my businesses, is just, it destroys me. And every year we have a tax, like a CPA, a tax guy, does our taxes and tax strategies and all that stuff. But every year there's a couple of days where I have to just set aside time to do my taxes and prep everything for my tax guy and make sure we're all on the same page. I loathe that day. In fact, I set aside the second half of that day to just do anything I want to do, whether that's go out to eat, go catch some wave. It doesn't matter. I just am like, I just know this is going to drain me completely, and I just need space to do that, right? So here's how we can kind of apply this and eliminate these time energy mismatches, okay? So we talked about the time audit earlier. But we can also do kind of like an energy audit. So track how you feel after all the tasks that you're doing. You could even rate them, like +2, it's energizing; 0, it's neutral. It doesn't matter to me. And -2, it's draining, right? So just kind of do, maybe it's something you can do while you do your time audit that we talked about above, where you could also do the energy rating along with it. And as we talked about, removing the tasks that are low value tasks, you can also remove the tasks that are energy drains. And so you can prioritize outsourcing or automating those tasks, even if they maybe jump a little bit down that ladder, or I guess up that ladder there. And then the third way you can sort of apply this is spend more time on the energizing activities, like, coaching your team or networking or strategic planning or, landing commercial, sales, clients, or, whatever it is that energizes you. Try to spend more time doing that and find other people. This was a big aha moment for me, is that it turns out that not everybody's energized by the same things that I'm energized by. And a great example of this is I had, first time I ever hired an admin to help me with laundromat resource stuff. There were some tasks that I just hated. Like I do a lot of webinars. I was doing them every week for a long time. I hated setting these webinars up and setting up email automations to remind everybody and yada, yada, yada. I hated, it was just this like slog of a process. And so I gave her what normally would take me like 2.5 weeks for me to do, literally, and I would be depleted at the end of it. I gave it to her and I said, hey, look, I'm really sorry, but here's this stuff. This is what I kind of need help with. It might take a while or whatever. It took her half a day and it was no problem for her and she loved it. And it was like an aha moment that not everybody is energized by the same things. And she was super energized by it. So find the people who are energized by the things that drain you and who are good at it and hand it over. Let them go to town with it and you focus on the things that are good for you. Eric said, you'll never catch me doing my own taxes. First thing I did once I started a business was hire a bookkeeper. Hate paying bills, but watch it like a hawk. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's the same with me. I do not pay my own taxes, but I got to go over all those suckers. But I am with you, man. Maybe we should, April 15th, maybe we should do like some sort of outing for all of us who hate taxes just to kind of like commiserate with each other and all that. That'd be fun. Okay. Principle number 5, designing your perfect week. Here's Dan Martell's idea behind it. You should design your calendar intentionally, blocking out time for what matters most before others fill in your schedule. Now, this one's challenging for me because I love the concept behind it is like, hey, go through your calendar and fill in the things that matter first, right? I love that concept, the things that give you energy, the things that are going to move the needle, the things you want to do, and put those in first so you're prioritizing them. The problem for me and why this is a challenge for me is that I'm just not great at planning and I'm not great at sticking to a schedule and checking the calendar and all that stuff. So it's been a challenge for me, but I do see the benefit of being the commander of your own time, you know what I mean? And not letting other people dictate how you spend your time. Yeah, exactly. We'll hang out and make fun of everyone doing taxes. That's right. I love that. I'm in. Let's do it. April 15th, we're having a party. Actually, I think it's National Laundry Day, weirdly, too. So I think it's a tax write-off for us to be able to actually do that. So this is like a win all the way around. Okay. Here's why this idea of designing your perfect week or month or year matters. And in fact, Jesse Itzler, I don't know if you know Jesse Itzler, but he actually has, he really advocates planning out your whole year ahead of time. And he has, I think it's called the Big Ass Calendar, actually. But you can get a calendar that just lays out the whole year. And he said, go through, and he gives you sort of a process to go through and prioritize your whole year to make sure you're doing this for yourself for the whole year. Yeah, Joe, exactly. If you don't control your day, someone else will. It's like, it's weird, man. Like time is kind of like a vacuum, right? Like if you don't take charge of your time, like meaningless stuff or urgent stuff that feels urgent, but isn't all that important will just fill in that vacuum. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But anyways, you know, so doing this for the week, I think is great. Also, I think there's value in doing this for a year, but without a plan, your week can easily get eaten up by emergencies, to-dos, these urgent things or things that feel urgent or others people's urgent things that aren't urgent for you. So here's a couple of ideas on how to actually apply this. Okay, so number 1, block weekly time for these few things. Strategy and planning. This has been the game changer for me. Even before I read this book, I started blocking off time on Mondays to strategize and plan both for the week, but also just kind of long-term strategy and planning. And I actually do this a little bit longer monthly and a little bit longer quarterly too. I do a weekend, a quarter to do this strategy and planning. Financial reviews, staff check-ins, and personal downtime, family stuff. Make sure, you know, listen, we own businesses. Yes, to make money. Yes, to make a difference in the community or whatever. But really, it's like to build the lives that we want to build, right? So that we're enjoying life. So let's not forget that and prioritize having some personal downtime and family time. And those are oftentimes, I found, the things that go first when we get busy. So being proactive about putting that in the calendar communicates to your family and friends and to yourself personally that it's important to you, but also make sure that, it doesn't get eaten up by other things that can so ease that vacuum, effect that goes there. And then once you've kind of time block these things, treat them as non-negotiable. Like things are going to come up, emergencies are going to happen, yada, 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 but treat those as non-negotiable. And I found that to be super empowering. And when problems come up, rarely are they as urgent as they feel. And even when they are, I have not run into one that's, a catastrophe. So it's an opportunity to identify, okay, this happened while I was in my non-negotiable time. How do we solve this the next time and create a procedure or system for that? And then again, automate and delegate anything that doesn't fit into your calendar, into your schedule. Okay, here's another principle that I loved out of this book, which is build your dream team. I've been doing a lot of reading and watching videos, listening to podcasts and all that stuff on getting the right people in the right seats. I fully 100% believe now that the key to success is having the right people in the right seats. And that includes you, by the way, making sure you're in the right seat. And I know a lot of times we start off in all the seats, but again, this whole book is about getting to a point where you can get into the right seat and get other people into the right seats to have some synergy. And it's like a 1 + 1 = 10 kind of situation, not a 1 + 1 = 2. So here's the idea is you scale by surrounding yourself with A players who free you up to focus on higher level work. Eric said, I'm so lazy. I spend every evening on who I need to contact to get everything done for me tomorrow. I'm going to just argue with you and say, that's not lazy. That's just smart. That's just smart. But here's why it matters. Okay. And this was a little bit of a lesson that I learned when I showed up at my laundromat one time, finding one of my attendants in a yelling match with one of my customers out in front of the laundromat. Hiring cheap, low commitment employees creates churn and constant headaches. And that's true. And in fact, a lot of the people who I've interviewed on the podcast and stuff who were just crushing it in business, they pay more than other laundromats in the area because they realize how again, it's not an expense entirely, it's an investment, right? And they realize how important it is to get the right people in the right seats. And I'll say too, just to kind of acknowledge, hiring right now is one of the most difficult hurdles that laundromat owners face. I think getting the right people in the right seats is difficult. But here's a couple tips for you. Okay. Hire based on character and cultural fit, and then train for the skill. Okay. And especially in what we're doing, you don't have to be that skilled, even if you're doing processing, pickup and delivery orders or what, there's not a super highly skilled position that most laundromats have. So hire based on character and cultural fit, and then train for the skill. Okay. Another tip is create roles like lead attendant, customer service specialist, operations manager. Give them titles that have real meaning, and then lead them into the performance of those, what those titles represent, right? Lead them into that and give them more and more responsibility. Give them a chance to own their role and their piece in building the business. And then number 3 tip that I got for you is offer incentives for performance, retention, referrals. A lot of you guys are doing that. But, once you have somebody who's good, do whatever you can to keep them around, to keep them loyal, to keep them happy, and to keep them working with you and not against you. Okay? And here's one that we sort of talked about already, but Dan calls it the $1 million work. Okay. And, this industry, and I think even a lot of people in this industry think, this is not, this is not a high, I'm trying not to degrade our industry, but this is not like a glamorous business. This is not, something that is, well, I'll just leave it there. Okay. It's not a glamorous business, but again, focusing on high leverage activities and the ones that move the needle most is what Dan would call $1 million work. And I will just say that I probably know more laundromat owners who are millionaires and who are doing what I would call $1 million work now than I ever have ever. And the reason for it is those owners realize that they're never going to create wealth scrubbing the floors. Okay. I spent a lot of time early on in my first laundromat when I bought it, and it was losing money when they told me it was making money, and I didn't know what to do. I spent a lot of time scrubbing a lot of floors, and guess what? I wasn't making any progress in the business because I wasn't focusing on the things that would grow the business. I was trying to just keep things running, right? But you need to focus on activities that generate exponential results, okay? And that's a little tricky in our industry, right? We're a very incremental business by and large. You know, it's hard for a laundromat to grow exponentially, especially if you're a self-serve laundromat, right? You're going to grow probably incrementally, which means we need to think a little different, right? And it reminds me of the book, which we'll also get to, 10X is easier than 2X, where if you say, okay, what would it take for me to take my laundromat that's making $200,000 gross a year? What would it take for it to get to $2 million a year gross, right? And now all of a sudden we're thinking differently, and the activities that we'll focus on to build that business are going to be dramatically different than the activities we'd focus on to grow that from, you know, $200,000 gross to $300,000 gross, right? So those activities that we would have to do in order to grow it to $2 million gross, those are what Dan would call the $1 million work. Okay. So here's some examples of $1 million work in our industry. Acquiring additional laundromats, right? Building that portfolio of laundromats, building partnerships with like hotels, Airbnb managers, restaurant chains, spas, right? Getting some of these commercial clients or larger residential clients like an Airbnb manager or something like that. Yeah, Eric says it's because machines are so expensive now. Get more revenue out of them, but there are a few more zeros behind everything now. Yeah, and it's not just the machines. I mean, we saw machines jump up big time over, you know, COVID and supply chain issues. And guess what? Those prices never came back down, even though we don't have those same supply chain issues. Manufacturers just took it as an opportunity to raise prices, and they never came back down. So machines cost more now. Financing is more expensive with higher interest rates now. Our, you know, labor costs more. Most places, utilities has gone up over the last 5 years or so. You know, and on, like all of our big expenses have gone up. Insurance, a whole other ball game, right? So I think it's even more important than ever to focus on this $1 million work, right? So acquiring additional laundromats, building partnerships, hotels, Airbnbs, other kind of commercial clients, launching service-based businesses is an idea. Now, not everybody wants to do that, but that is an idea of how to focus on $1 million work, right? Launching pickup and delivery, launching drop-off, focusing on growing those parts of the business. Investing in better marketing and automation tools, using AI, I would say, is another example of that. Training leaders to run the business without you. All these things, what Dan would call and what I would call $1 million work in our industry. I love this principle. He calls it capacity bottlenecks. Usually that's just me in my case, right? Like I'm the capacity bottleneck. That's when you hit a ceiling. It's often because you're the bottleneck, right? You're the bottleneck in the business. And here's why it matters for us. Number one, this is like a plague on our industry, I think. I think there's more people doing a better job of removing themselves as the bottleneck, but this is legit a plague on our industry, is this capacity bottleneck of the owner limiting the growth of their business. Right. So here's why it matters for us. If you're the only person who can solve certain problems, your business can't grow beyond you. Now, I'm going to repeat that again for those of you in the back who have that mindset of only I can do X, Y, Z. Nobody can do it as good as me. I'm a control freak and I need to control everything, right? That's okay. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But if you're the only person who can solve certain problems, your business cannot grow beyond you. Okay? So if you find yourself in that situation, and chances are good that some of you guys on here right now, I should say some of us on here right now, and I'd say I do fall in this category often. I got to proactively fight against it, right? But if you fall in that, here's a couple of ideas on how to remove yourself as the bottleneck. Number one, identify what would break if you stepped away for 30 days. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but there are definitely times in my laundromat career here where even just thinking about stepping away for 30 days, I have like a mini anxiety attack. And that might be you. But the exercise of thinking about what would break if you step away for 30 days is so powerful, because I think that you'll find if you can identify those things, 95+% of those things are fixable. There's a remedy to that doesn't require you to fix it, right? And one baby step, if you're really having anxiety about that, one baby step is going back to that time blocking thing, right? And time blocking some of those things we talked about and keeping them sacred. Turn your phone off. Don't respond to your staff or customers or anybody during that time, and see what breaks. And when it breaks, fix it. Figure out a way to fix it that doesn't require you to be the one that fixes it. Okay? So when, tip number 2, when those problems come up, fix those problems or those weak points first by training or systematizing, right? I know for me, my default is something breaks, I go fix it. Something breaks, I go fix it. I'm the one who goes and fixes it, right? But that mindset shift that I'm trying to still go through really is when something breaks or there's a weak spot, fix it first by training or systematizing the solution or the fix or whatever it is, right? Not by fixing it yourself first. Okay. And then, work towards building, and this is like a lot of what he's talking about in this book, but work towards building a self-sustaining business where you're not essential for daily operations. That is the ultimate goal. Okay. And the last principle I wanted to go over, and again, we're talking about Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, and we're just contextualizing it for laundromat owners if you're just jumping in here. But he has what he calls the 95-5 rule. Okay. And here's what that is. You should only focus on the 5% of work that only you can do and delegate the other 95%. I think that the majority of laundromat owners apply the 5-95 rule, where we focus on the 95% of work and delegate the 5%. Okay, we need to flip that on its head and focus on the 5% of work that only we can do. Anything else, we're working our way up that ladder towards delegating the other 95%. Okay? And here's why it matters. Again, if you're doing everything, you're preventing your business from scaling and growing. Okay? That's just what it comes down to, is when you have to be in the center of everything happening, you're the limiter, you're the bottleneck. You're preventing the business from growing, you're preventing the business from scaling. Okay? So again, here's a couple tips on how to apply that. Number 1, identify the 5% of tasks that only you can do. Okay. Some ideas, some examples. This is something you can work through yourself too, but creating the vision for your company and the values, big decisions, high level partnerships, be thinking about, negotiating new deals. Like, be thinking about what are the 5% of tasks that only you can do, and map out a plan on how you can get there. You may not be there right now, but there is a path to you getting there. And that is where things get really exciting. So after you've sort of identified some of those things, and those will illuminate themselves along the way, but begin building a team, hiring or automating help to handle the rest, that 95%. And here's what's key to me, at least, and a little bit humbling. Measure your success by how much time you spend in your 5%. Measure your success by how much time you spend in your 5%, right? What percentage of your work hours are you spending on that 5% of things that only you can do? The higher that percentage, the more successful you are becoming. Okay, those are all the principles I had from this book. Buy Back Your Time is not just about time management. It's about reclaiming your life and unlocking the freedom you probably started your laundromat business to achieve in the first place, right? That's what it's about. And he talks about in the book, like, yes, we want to, pay people to do those 95% tasks, those tasks that are below our hourly wage that we've set for ourselves, our buyback rate. But also it's just to buy back time to enjoy life and to build the life that we got in this business to build in the first place, right? So here's a couple of next moves for you. I end every single podcast episode with, listen, you're only going to start seeing results if you start taking action. So here's a couple potential recommended action steps for you to take today if you have time right now. This is something you can do right now. So number one, conduct a time and energy audit immediately. Do it this week. Track how you spend your time. Again, I think I have, I know I have a time audit sheet. So if you need one, you can probably Google it and download one. But if you need one, shoot me an email, jordan@laundromatresource.com. Glad to send that to you. But conduct a time energy audit and see, where am I spending my time? Not just in my business, but just in general. I do this periodically, and I'm always discouraged by how much time I waste, as I waste a lot of time. Okay, so conduct a time and energy audit immediately. Do it this week. Number two, identify your buyback rate. And then number three, systematically start climbing that replacement ladder. Here's a result that I think you'll get if you do those things. It's the things that we got into this business for, which is more freedom, more cash flow, and a business that grows without consuming your life. Like, that's why we like laundromats, right? They don't require us to be there all the time. They're pretty good on the cash flow, return on your investment, and they give you freedom. So if those are the things that you're interested in, I love these 9 principles from Buy Back Your Time to help you get there. And listen, hopefully you got something out of this. Huge shout out, obviously, to Dan Martell, who wrote the book Buy Back Your Time. Go check it out. If you haven't read it, I'd highly recommend you read it. And hopefully you can apply some of these things in your business. With all that said, listen, it's like 2:30 here in Hawaii, and I'm going to go hit the beach. But I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you at the next random time. I haven't scheduled one, but I've got more books that I want to go through and contextualize for laundromat owners. So keep an eye out for that. And if you're on YouTube here watching it, hit that bell, and it'll notify you when we go live. All right. We'll see you guys later. Have a good one.